Without LeBron, he was at home with the flu. The Lakers also played without Anthony Davis after the first quarter. AD suffered an eye injury. 30 points for Rui Hachimura in the loss. The Clippers overcame a 26-point deficit in the third quarter to beat Cleveland. The win was number 50 for the Clippers, their first 50-win season since 2017. Paul George scored 23 of his 39 points in the fourth quarter to spark the comeback. Congrats to South Carolina women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. South Carolina beat Iowa to win the NCAA National Championship and cap an undefeated season at 38-0. Third national title for Staley at South Carolina. Tiger Woods is planning to play in the Masters this week. Barring any physical setbacks, the 48-year-old Woods will tee off in the first round on Thursday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley.
And I'm Compton Mayor Emma Sharif.
You have no doubt been hearing promos and expert conversations on our various weekday shows and downloading details at KBLA1580.com about our climate justice campaign, which is now in full effect.
The city of Compton is pleased to partner with KBLA Talk 1580 to celebrate Earth Day 2024 as we serve, share, and help our city shine.
And KBLA Talk 1580 is just as excited to join the city of Compton as we broadcast live and bring our KBLA delegation with us to help clean and beautify our community, and you are invited to join us.
Come meet us on Saturday, April the 20th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in Compton as we fan out to clean up our city.
The first 50 KBLA listeners to hit our website at KBLA1580.com will receive a free KBLA tee when you join us on Saturday morning, April 20th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in Compton. Now, no show, no shirt, but sign up at KBLA1580.com right now to help us clean up Compton as part of Earth Day 2024.
We will see you on Saturday, April the 20th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in the city of Compton to do our part for Earth Day 2024.
We are KBLA Talk 1580, caring about the climate, caring about the community, cleaning up Compton. Stevie Wonder. I'm Tavis Smiley. Our guest in this hour is William Darity, who I'm pleased to have back on this program. Always hard stepping on Steve. I say it all the time. I just hate. Something ought to be illegal about cutting off Stevie Wonder in the middle of a song, but it is talk radio, and the show must go on, as they say. Thank you, Stevie. As I mentioned, Duke economist William Darity is our guest in this hour. He's back to update us on wealth inequality in the Trump-Biden era. We were just talking about Trump-Biden, Trump and Biden, I should say, or Trump or Biden, for that matter. We're discussing all those things in our prior hour. But this hour, we talk about the money. During this Trump-Biden era, specifically the black money, the black wealth. Many of you saw the president's recent State of the Union address, so I'm going to play a clip that you may have already heard. You probably saw it in real time, but take a listen, and then we'll commence our conversation with economist William Darity.
A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
Professor Darity, good to have you back on this program. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm contributing to the interruption of Stevie Wonder, but I'm glad to be here.
No. I appreciate you sharing that, and it's okay. It's okay. We all love Steve, and we'll play some more Stevie a little bit later. But for now, I'm excited to have this conversation, and Stevie listens to this program, so he may be tuned in right now, listening to your expert analysis. And so again, we're grateful to have you on the program. So I played that clip a moment ago from the State of the Union address not too long ago, given by our current president, Joe Biden. And what I really wanted to get your take on was that last part where he's talking about the numbers as he sees them when it comes to the black wealth gap. Talk to me about what you heard and whether or not the president was accurate in that assessment.
Well, I heard him say that the black-white wealth gap is at the lowest level it has been in 20 years. I'm not sure how he came up with that number. It doesn't seem to be true based upon the most recent data we have from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. So if we were to look at the Survey of Consumer Finances for 2019 and compare with the data from 2022, which is the most up-to-date data that we have available, there was an increase in the gap between black and white net worth from $164,100 in 2019 to $241,120 in 2022. So that would be an increase of about $77,000. And if you were to calculate the gap at the conventional average or the mean per household, it would have increased from $841,900 to more than $1.15 million. Both of those would constitute increases that are significant, even if you took into account inflation. The median increase would have been 21.4% after accounting for inflation, and the mean difference would have been about 16% after accounting for inflation. So whatever I have to say positive or negative about the president, I don't know how he came up with that claim.
I want to interrogate that claim when we come forward. Just getting started in this hour with Duke economist William Darity, and there's a great deal to talk about regarding Joe Biden and black folk, for that matter, Donald Trump and black folk, particularly when it comes to this notion of wealth inequality, what both men have done or not done, what both men propose to do or not do. Who better to talk about these issues with than William Darity? And we'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/blackbeyondmeasure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
They said it couldn't be done. They said it was impossible. But mark my words, I did it. With Kohl's. That's right, I got everything I needed for my spring home refresh in one trip. I'm talking Sonoma Goods for Life bedding for 20% off, and Espresso Virtual Plus Deluxe for 30% off, Cuisinart cookware sets for 35% off, and Sonoma Goods for Life decor for 20% off. So if you want to get set for the season and save big, you can do it all at Kohl's. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Espresso and Cuisinart coupons do not apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
It's a celebration of a living legend. It's the Farewell Tour. It's Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
Thank you for the love, Julia. Sing to me that
also featuring the soul icon, Anthony Hamilton. Plus, After 7. It's a Mother's Day celebration, May 12th in the Kia Forum. In commemoration, come in your all white. Get tickets at Ticketmaster. Presented by the Black Promoters Collective.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
Who do you trust to get at the truth?
Tavis Smiley.
That's who. The conversation continues right now.
Well, I trust William Darity to help get to the truth as well, and so I'm always honored to have him on this program when it comes to black folk and numbers, or just the economy writ large. But today I want to focus on wealth inequality. So let me start by asking this question. I, of course, am not naive, Professor Darity, in asking this, but I'm asking it because you are an economist, you are an African-American economist, and there may be some insights here that I'm just overlooking. Clearly, as Johnny Cochran once famously said, race is a part of everything in America. But why, to your mind as an economist, is this black-white wealth gap so stubborn?
I think the black-white wealth gap is so stubborn because of the nature of the types of policies that our federal government has pursued in the period, the 160 years or so in the period succeeding the Civil War, beginning with the failure to provide the formerly enslaved with 40-acre land grants that were promised to them as restitution for their years of bondage, while the federal government was providing 1.5 million white families with 160-acre land patents in the Western Territories under the Homestead Act of 1862. And so you had the formerly enslaved getting virtually nothing, and you had a significant segment, probably about 10% of the white American population, receiving substantial land grants in the western part of the United States. And then you had the period of legal segregation, which was accompanied by a series of upwards of about 100 massacres that were conducted by white terrorists, where not only did they take black lives, but they seized and appropriated black-owned property, which reinforced the wealth disparity between blacks and whites. In the 20th century, the federal government moves away from asset building by land distribution to asset building by supporting home ownership. And it does this in a highly discriminatory fashion in such a way that we had the introduction of the phenomenon of redlining, and then we had the application of the GI Bill, the home buying provisions of the GI Bill, in such a way that it built the white middle class in the United States, but did not do the same for black Americans. And then, on top of that, we have the whole period of so-called urban renewal, as James Baldwin famously called it, Negro removal, which resulted in the destruction of black neighborhoods and the destruction of black-owned business districts, which again resulted in an intensification of this gap in wealth between blacks and whites. So we have a long history in terms of U.S. government policy promoting the acquisition of wealth by whites and denying black Americans the opportunity to do the same.
Let me ask you then the obvious question, given what you've just laid out so brilliantly and so eloquently, whether or not good public policy could turn that tide, or is racism so strong a factor that even good public policy is no contender for racism?
Well, I think that good public policy that would address the racial wealth gap would do it in a direct way. It would mean a substantial transfer of resources to black American households. And I've put that transfer in my work under the label of a reparations program. And the reparations program that would be required to eliminate the racial wealth gap, given the fact that the average black household has $1.15 million less in net worth than the average white household, would essentially be an expenditure of about $16 trillion by the federal government. So the question that has to be asked by people who say there are other policies that would work is whether or not those other policies would effectively close that $16 trillion gap. And those other policies people typically talk about are indirect measures. And I would argue that those indirect measures probably are not going to be sufficiently effective.
This is getting good, as we say around here. This is getting good. Let me follow you as I always do, and will for the rest of this hour, because you're saying stuff now that I think we ought to unpack a bit. So let me start with this. Again, here's the word naive. No naivete here. But what would be, just make this case for me, to the extent you can, I believe you can. What would I want to phrase this the right way. How would the government, how would the country, how would the nation benefit by a direct infusion of resources to the black community versus these indirect public policies? Hold on, let me finish my frame here. Whether you call it reparations or anything else, and trust me, I got some reparations questions for you. We'll get to that. We know you as the leading economist in this country who's been tracking this reparations issues vis-a-vis the money. We'll get to that later in this hour. My question right now is, what would it benefit the government? How would it benefit the government? How would it benefit the economy? That's what I'm really getting at. How would it benefit the economy if there were a direct infusion of cash, or whatever you're going to define that infusion as, to black America, as a way to help shrink the black-white wealth gap? Now, I'm not naive. I know they don't care about this. I'm just trying to ask if there are any economic reasons you can give me as we make the case for why they ought to address this issue of the black-white wealth gap directly versus indirectly. We all recall, we were discussing Barack Obama in the last hour with our guest Mark Lamont Hill, and talking about the fact, as we all recall, that Obama was in some way scared of his own shadow. He didn't want to do anything that he could be accused of aiding and abetting directly black people. He even coined the phrase, I ain't the president of black America. He didn't say ain't. I'm not the president of black America. I'm the president of all of America. And we bought that line, hook, line, and sinker. He kept putting that line, I'm the president of all America. And the argument was that I can't do nothing for y'all Negroes directly. But your argument is that these indirect public policies are not having the intended impact, or maybe they are, but they're not moving the line. They're not shrinking this gap between black and white when it comes to wealth. That's a mouthful, but I think you take my question. Is there an argument you can make economically for how direct engagement, direct resources, direct interaction is the appropriate way to go and would benefit the economy versus all these indirect policies? Now shut up.
Let me be frank. There is an argument that can be made. I'm not sure it's valid.
Okay.
But the argument that can be made is that if you engage in any significant expenditure act where you're transferring funds into the hands of potential consumers. You can produce a stimulus effect for the economy, particularly in a period where the economy might be in an economic slowdown. Now, we're not in an economic slowdown at this moment, but a lot of people are forecasting that we might go into such an economic slowdown. I'm not certain that you always have a positive stimulus effect on real production in the economy, as opposed to just simply driving up prices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to have my claim for the case for reparations for Black American descendants of U.S. slavery to hang on this argument that there might be a stimulus benefit for the economy as a whole. I will say this, it will be a situation in which the nation finally addresses its moral obligation to a segment of the population that has consistently been denied full citizenship. And to the extent that the crippling of that full citizenship has resulted in Black Americans not being able to flower in their full range of talents and capabilities, the nation has denied itself elements of Black genius that it would otherwise have benefited from.
I'm working my way toward that. Trust and believe. We're going to the reparations issue. I promise you. Let me stay with two other issues for the time being, and both have to do with Joe Biden. Before I get to the strong job growth the economy's had for 39 straight months, we'll get to that and what impact that's had on black people and black wealth. With regard to Joe Biden, we started this hour playing that clip, of course, of his comments at the State of the Union, where he suggested that there had been a decrease in the black-white wealth gap, the lowest ever, and you pushed back on that and said not so much. Have you seen anything that Joe Biden has done politically, anything he's done economically, that aids and abets a decrease in this gap, whether or not he's right about the fact it's the lowest ever?
So I think that the conditions with respect to unemployment in the United States are comparatively good. And also, I think some of that success is linked to his efforts to engage in infrastructure development in the United States. So I view all of those things as positives. But let me say this, even though Black Americans are experiencing a much lower rate of unemployment than we typically experience, it still is about 2 times as high as the white rate. So what our public policies typically do not do is, if they improve absolute conditions, they don't necessarily change the relative position of Black Americans in comparison with white Americans. And so you may have a much lower unemployment rate for all Americans and a lower rate for Black Americans than normal, but it still remains significantly higher than the white rate. So, this is the problem with American public policies that do not center directly on the needs of Black Americans, that they leave the relative position unchanged. And in some cases, like the racial wealth gap, the absolute difference gets larger.
I'm thinking as you're talking about a Bible verse, and I'll tell you why in just 2 seconds here. As you were talking, my mind went to that Bible verse that we all know. The poor you will have with you always. I've seen people take that scripture and twist it like a pretzel to mean all kinds of things. I ain't got time to get into the hermeneutics of the text. But that phrase we've heard 1,000 times coming out of the Bible, that the poor ye will have with you always. I thought about that scripture in part because of what you were saying about the fact that we're experiencing, Black people that is, experiencing lower employment now than we typically do, but it's still twice that of whites, which leads me to ask whether or not, just as we will always have the poor with us, this gap between Black and white and unemployment issues or employment issues will never be 1-to-1, 0-0. Just tell me that's never going to happen, will it?
No, there's actually a straightforward policy that would be beneficial for all Americans that would eliminate unemployment altogether.
Okay.
And so we would have effectively a zero rate of unemployment for all Americans. And that's a federal job guarantee. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've actually been a longtime advocate of the federal government standing as an employer for all Americans who would seek a public sector job in lieu of work in the private sector.
Tell me more about how that would work. How would that work? Talk to me.
So the federal government, like the activities that it conducted during the Great Depression under the Works Progress Administration mm-hmm. and the Civilian Conservation Corps, would stand ready to provide a job for any American who wanted a job and who was unable to find a job of sufficient quality in the private sector. So the federal sector jobs would provide wages that would be above the poverty line and would be inclusive of a benefits package that would be similar to the benefits package that all public civil servants in the United States receive, and that would have as a component medical insurance as well. This would be a program in which the array of jobs that would be made available would fill the kinds of gaps and deficiencies we have in American society today. So we would have physical infrastructure improvement jobs, mm-hmm. including people engaged in employed work for rehabbing schools or building new school structures, people serving as teacher aides in schools. We could also have a variety of human infrastructure activities like child care and elder care, professionalized under the rubric of a federal job guarantee. So there's plenty of work to be done, and we could perform that work by guaranteeing employment for everyone. And then that's a situation in which the black and white unemployment rates would be identical because they both be at zero.
I'm hearing, moments ago I was hearing the Bible in my head, and now I'm hearing my grandmother, Big Mama, in my head. Baby, it's just too much like right. It's just too much like right for an idea like that to get off the ground. Nevertheless, when we come forward, I want to interrogate this idea. My question, as you heard moments ago, was how could we ever, will we ever see black and white unemployment or employment at the same level? I can't imagine it, and leave it to William Darity to say, oh, no, Tavis, there is a way to do that, and the way to do it is called a federal job guarantee. Now I've got more questions about that, and I ain't got to reparations yet. I'm glad I've got him for the hour. You're listening right now to William Darity, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden will be in Wisconsin today to announce a new student loan forgiveness program. The planned announcement comes after the Supreme Court stopped his previous attempt at a student debt program almost a year ago. The Wall Street Journal says the new plan will be regulated through the Higher Education Act of 1965. In Missouri, 2 fraternities have been temporarily suspended at Washington University. Dean of Students Rob Wild has said the campus chapters of both Kappa Sigma and Alpha Phi are facing disciplinary action pending an investigation of an incident involving students throwing eggs and potential racial slurs at a campus dining hall. The students allegedly also were throwing other things and spitting on each other. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers lost at home to Minnesota. They played without LeBron. He was at home with the flu. The Lakers also played without Anthony Davis after the first quarter. AD suffered an eye injury. 30 points for Rui Hachimura in the loss. The Clippers overcame a 26-point deficit in the third quarter to beat Cleveland. The win was number 50 for the Clippers, their first 50-win season since 2017. Paul George scored 23 of his 39 points in the fourth quarter to spark the comeback. Congrats to South Carolina women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. South Carolina beat Iowa to win the NCAA National Championship and cap an undefeated season at 38-0. Third national title for Staley at South Carolina. Tiger Woods is planning to play in the Masters this week. Barring any physical setbacks, the 48-year-old Woods will tee off in the first round on Thursday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Dodgers invite you to come to Dodger Stadium on Tuesday, April 16th for Hello Kitty Night. Purchase a special ticket pack to receive a Hello Kitty bag. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/ticketpacks. That's Dodgers.com/ticketpacks.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I feel occasional burning and stabbing in my hands as I age.
I sometimes feel numbness and tingling in my feet as I get older.
It's starting to get in the way of doing what I love.
At Nervive, we hear you, and we can help. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use.
Now that I know, I'm taking control.
Try Nervive Nerve Relief and say yes to healthy nerves.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Duke economist William Darity, who is on with us in this hour, talking about this stubborn wealth gap between black and white in this country, and what, if anything, can be done about it. President Biden, in his recent State of the Union address, made the claim that the gap between black and white wealth in this country is at its lowest point ever. And Professor Darity says that's not exactly correct. I appreciate these news sources and news outlets that fact check what these candidates say. And so I've got my own fact checker today named William Darity on this particular issue about the gap between black and white wealth in this country and where it really sits. He unpacked that for us with great detail earlier in this program. If you missed that, check out the podcast of this conversation when it's posted later. You can hear how he broke that down. I won't ask you to repeat all of that. But suffice it to say that the president was slightly off, according to Professor Darity, in his assessment about the state of the condition of the black-white wealth gap in this country. That said, again, in case you just tuned in, so I asked Professor Darity minutes ago whether or not we are always going to live in a country where there will never be 1-to-1 or 0-to-0 when it comes to the black-white wealth gap in this country. He said, well, no, there's a way to address this. And the way to address it, according to him, is...
Well, let me clarify.
Clarify for me. Okay, go ahead.
We were talking about the unemployment rate
Yes,
gap.
the unemployment rate. You're right. You're right. Glad you said that.
And closing the unemployment rate gap.
That's right.
Won't have much of an effect on the wealth gap.
That's why you're the economist and the expert, and I'm just a lowly talk show host. He's absolutely correct about that. I said the wealth gap, and we did talk about that, but we specifically, when it comes to this federal job guarantee, we're talking about the unemployment rate. He is correct. I stand corrected. That we're talking about the unemployment rate. So now you got me back on track here. We'll set the wealth gap aside for just a moment. I want to come back expressly and specifically to the unemployment rate that you were talking about regarding this federal job guarantee and the impact it would have on unemployment. So that unemployment would be 0-0 for black and white if we had a federal job guarantee. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
All right, now let me move forward. Then now that I got my mind right, is to get your mind right, Negro. Now that my mind is right, let me move forward. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to tell me why the folk in Washington, if they really care about reducing unemployment to 0 for everybody, as my grandmother would say, again, this idea is too much like right. It's just too much like right. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to critique your own idea and tell me why the folk in Washington would never take something like a federal job guarantee seriously as a matter of public policy.
Actually, that's a terrific question, especially given the fact that 80% of the U.S. public, even a majority of Republicans, are in favor of a federal job guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have political activity at the congressional level that corresponds to public sentiment. And my theory is it's because if you introduced a federal job guarantee, you would set a floor on the quality of jobs that would have to be offered by the private sector, because they wouldn't get employees at all if they continued to offer poorly paid, unsafe jobs with unpredictable hours of work, because folks would reject those jobs and take the public sector job as an alternative. So what you're really doing is you're setting a minimum standard for employment across the entire economy. And I think that there's real nervousness in some sectors of the private economy about being compelled to have to provide quality jobs for everyone. I think that's the political resistance that lies in the background of a policy proposal that the vast majority of Americans endorse.
I knew there had to be an answer to it, and I appreciate the honesty and the transparency in the answer. It makes perfect sense to me now that you've explained it. The private sector will push back on this because it puts them in a trick bag, puts them in a box as they see it. I take your point. So let me interrogate that then. If we have been told perennially that it is, Calvin Coolidge once said, as you know, that the business of America is business. At least that quote was attributed to him. That the business of America is business, said former President President Calvin Coolidge. And even if we talk about small business, Joe Biden talked about this in the clip that we played at the top of this hour. That small business, many people believe, is the engine that really drives this country. So what impact would it have not just on corporate America, on these multinationals, but what impact would a federal job guarantee have on small business in this country?
Well, it depends upon whether the small business's business plan is based on paying low wages or not.
Uh-huh.
So if their business plan is predicated on paying low wages to their employees, then yeah, they'll be damaged by a proposal of this type. But the idea here is not to eliminate the private sector. It's to use the public sector as a mechanism for improving the performance of the private sector. So essentially what we want with a federal job guarantee is to have the public sector function as a competitor, a competitive employer with the private sector.
Mm-hmm. They ain't trying to hear that, Professor Darity. They got enough competition as it is. Well, let me back up. I was just on this program the other day saying, just expressing my viewpoint of how sick and tired I am of these monopolies. More and more we live in a country that's just so monopolistic. I digress on that for now, but that troubles me in a variety of ways. But I can't imagine that the private sector, to your earlier point, would welcome increased competition from the federal government.
And that's probably all the more reason why it needs to be done.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I like that response. I suggested earlier, and the data on this, in this regard at least, seems incontrovertible, that for 39 straight months the economy has grown. I'll come in a moment to why you think, whatever you think of Joe Biden. I want to ask you why you think Joe Biden isn't getting credit for this. But the numbers suggest to us, numbers just out a few days ago, that the economy, the job growth, the economy has grown for 39 straight months. That's a nice track record, 39 straight months. And yet Joe Biden is not getting credit for what he's doing on his particular watch. I want to ask Professor Darity why he thinks that's the case. But my real question is, are black folk benefiting in any meaningful way from these 39 straight months of job growth in this country? And then, of course, we'll talk a bit about reparations. Again, no economist in the country is doing more work tracking reparations by the numbers than William Darity. So we'll do all that when we come forward in a moment.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Don't shave with that, son. You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops. I'm good with Gillette's Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard anyway? You know Mama hates it.
Yeah, had it since my last wet shave in '77. Got ingrown so bad, looked like I was growing a patch of new noses.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturize, so I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count pack.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of William Darity right now, Duke economist, joining us in this hour to talk about black folk and numbers, specifically wealth inequality and unemployment numbers. So the first question, why do you think President Biden, on the campaign trail at least, is not getting the credit for these 39 straight months of increased and strong job growth, Professor Darity?
It may be because of the effectiveness of the propaganda of his opposition. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that there's any other reasonable explanation. Presidents generally are not actually responsible frequently for the actual performance of the economy, but they normally get credit for bad times if they occur while they're president, and they normally get credit for good times if they occur while they're president. And so I suspect that the reason why Biden is not getting credit for relatively prosperous times is because the propaganda machine that's poised against him is very, very effective.
No, I received that. Let me ask you this question. I want to spend a few moments talking just about reparations. But since we're talking about Biden, let me ask you this question, and I hope it's not too uncomfortable, and you can frame it and respond any way you want. But when it comes to the issue of reparations, how does that impact the way William Darity, given that you spent much of your life working on this, how does the issue of reparations impact the way you engage, the way you see the political process, specifically with regard to how you cast your vote? And I'm not asking who you're voting for. I'm just asking what the connection is between this issue, reparations, and how William Darity does, in fact, cast his vote.
Well, the attitude of political candidates towards reparations certainly is a key factor in my decision about who I personally choose to support. I will say this, the people overestimate the degree of opposition to reparations in the United States. They'll frequently say, it's a very small percentage of Americans who endorse reparations. Well, it's certainly a minority, but it's no longer a small percentage. In the year 2000, a survey that was conducted by Michael Dawson and Ravana Popoff at the University of Chicago found that 4% of white Americans endorsed monetary reparations for Black Americans. Today, that figure is closer to 30%, according to a survey that's been conducted at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And I think that if 30% of white Americans now are in favor of monetary payments as reparations, that's a significant foundation for building the level of political support that would be needed to get Congress to act in an appropriate way.
I tell you what,
but we do have to think about the expressed opinions and attitudes that our candidates have about the reparations question.
Nope, I received that. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Professor Darity, I want to ask him this question, which occurs to me right now. Perhaps it occurred to you as well. I'm trying to juxtapose these numbers or these two realities. The data that Professor Darity just quoted suggested from 2000 to 2024, the number of white people who believe in cash payments for reparations, reparations as cash payments, has gone from 2% to 4% to almost 30%. And did you say 2 or 4, Professor Darity? 20 years.
I said 4%.
You said, I thought,
in 2000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm getting my 2s and 4s confused. So 4% in 2000 was the number. In 2024, that number is almost 30%. I'm happy to hear about that growth, but I'm curious as to what he makes of why that number is growing or how that number is growing at a moment when our politics are so divisive. At a moment when, you take my point, we'll let him respond to it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions.
Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Got about 3 minutes left here. 3 minutes left with William Darity, Duke economist, who I've enjoyed having on this program this hour. I always learn a great deal when he comes through these parts. So help me understand at least how you see these numbers. I'm happy to hear about this growth in these numbers from our from the good white folk, the fellow white citizens who have moved from 4% in 2000 to almost 30% in 2024 with regard to reparations payments to African Americans. And yet, while I celebrate that, I'm just curious as to how you think that's happened at a moment where we've gotten more and more divisive politically in this country.
I think one of the key factors has been better information, better knowledge about the nation's history on the part of more and more Americans. I think that the reason why we're getting all of this pushback over so-called critical race theory is largely because the segment of the population that is most hostile towards racial equality has recognized that people's attitudes are changing as they become better informed. And so they're trying to quash the process of people having accurate knowledge about America's history.
There was there's a letter. It made all kind of news a few days ago. ABC News broke it first, as I recall. I don't have it right in front of me. As a matter of fact, let me pull it up right quick. I do have it because I was asked to affix my signature to this letter, and I did. Let me, if I can find it right quick. Bear with me. But there's a letter signed by 400 academics. There are scholars. There are all kinds of people, politicians who signed off on this letter to the president. And the headline of the story, you can find it. Here it is. Headline of the story on ABC News website. Headline reads, over 400 lawmakers, activists, actors, and more signed letter calling on Biden to support bills on racial equity. There are a number of bills in the House right now that the president could support. And if not, he could certainly use executive order to advance a more robust and aggressive agenda for addressing racial equity in this country. Again, this letter was signed by over 400 people. My signature, in full disclosure, is on this, and that's included in this particular story. Derek Johnson, NAACP, Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, members of Congress, Barbara Lee, Sheila Jackson Lee, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and others signed off on this letter. My question in the 60 seconds I have left, Professor Darity, is whether or not there is work that you think some damage the president can do right now with executive order as we continue to advance this conversation about reparations.
There's, of course, work that the president can do. There's work that state and local governments can do to advance racial equity. But if we're concerned about the racial wealth gap, only the federal government has the capacity to make the level of direct payments to Black American descendants of U.S. slavery that would eliminate that disparity.
Fair enough. I receive it. I see all the time on this program. I love talking to people who are a whole lot smarter than me, because that's how I get a little smarter every day when I leave this studio. It's been a great program so far. In our first hour, Mark Lamont Hill was our guest. What an amazing conversation. In this second hour, William Darity has empowered us with information. I'm grateful for that. And coming up in our third hour, Brianna Joy Gray. For now, the Professor Darity, good to have you back on this program again. All the best to you, my friend.
Always. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Brianna Joy Gray, looking forward to this final hour when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you. Had a student that